Well, I think it is significant, indeed very significant, and it should not just be seen in terms of this meeting. It should be seen in terms of the last 12 months. They held their first foreign ministers meeting in a national capital last October. They held their first quadrilateral maritime exercise in 13 years in the Bay of Bengal in last November. First leaders virtual summit in March, and here we are with the in-person. So it is picking up steam in very short time, and it is significant in that context.
So I want to start with some of their missions then. First, the economic mission.
Well, this is frankly the real problem. With regard to economics, most lines of business the roads need to lead through Beijing. It doesn't have to lead only to Beijing, but it has to lead via Beijing, because Beijing stands at the heart, it's the nerve center of Asia Pacific's economics. What the Quad is trying to do, nevertheless, is try to find areas of cooperation like critical and emerging technologies, like vaccine production, and like climate change, public health. So they're trying to tease out certain areas, including development. But I frankly think this will really not amount to much in the larger scheme of things, simply because Beijing sits at the center of all roads that are economic in the Asia-Pacific region.
So being that China clearly has not been included in this, what's been China's response to this group's formation?
Well, China was upset, obviously is still not terribly happy about what's happening, because China sees this as just naked encirclement and containment. But at the same time, China knows that it needs to gauge and wait and watch as to where exactly this Quad is going. Yes, the maritime dimension is well understood, but can the Quad get its act together on the other dimensions? And China is waiting and watching, and particularly watching where India goes out here, because it knows India is the indispensable link. India is also the weakest link of the Quad. And while it could have come down heavy on the Indians, it has chosen not to see how it can manage its relationship with India and what the implications are therefore for the Quad.
And as you look at different relationships, then how do you see this impacting already strained US-China relations?
It will, of course, strain that relationship. But I don't think Beijing is really surprised per se at what the United States is doing in terms of AUKUS, in terms of Quad, in terms of finding kind of bespoke mechanisms where it can cooperate with folks, where frankly China, if it had been brought in, can cooperate on global public health, on vaccines in ways that none of the other Quad parties can actually bring to the table, but it is being excluded, and so China has come to accept it. But I would also submit, there is an incremental and imperceptible retraction backwards by the Americans in terms of their hostility to Beijing, in terms of the Biden administration. It's walking back. We see in terms of the Huawei and the Hmong issue. In the latest Osmond statement, the word genocide was dropped. So we are seeing US quietly backtracking, and whether this opens ground for greater coexistence between the US and China, let's hope that is the case.
So then looking ahead then, what's next for the Quad going forward?
I think what the Quad is essentially trying to do is to suggest that we are not just a security body, a maritime security body. We are trying to do bespoke cooperation on much broader areas. And that doesn't mean it'll just be the same Quad partners. The Quad might be looking for Quad plus participants in particular areas. For example, on critical technologies, bring the South Koreans in, maybe the Taiwanese. In some other area, get other parties in. But what we can anticipate is that a building out of a Quad plus mechanism is in the works. The important question to ask is, will any of the Asian parties, particularly ASEAN parties, join with the Quad? And my view is, I don't think so that is going to be the case.